everyone. My name's Jane and I'm an alcoholic. It is so good to be here and it's so great to hear your voice, Teresa. Oh my gosh, I am crazy about you. I mean, a shot of Teresa once a week is all I need. Really, you are just a really special spirit and your laughter is contagious. And I just love being in your presence, however that might be, even through Zoom. So thank you so much for asking me. And I do understand that wonderful Tiambe really laid it on you a few weeks ago. And I'm so excited to be working with her. And she has really won over a really special place in my heart. Love you, Tiambe. Okay, so my name's Jane. I'm an alcoholic. And thanks to this program, thanks to my amazing faith in my amazing God, to my family and my friends and the sponsors that I've had throughout the years and my sponsees like Tiambe who helped me way more than I helped them. I've been sober since September 24th of 1996. And my home group is Central Group here in Tallahassee, Florida. Right out of the gate, I always like to share that my drinking run lasted for 14 long years. And I am so grateful for this spiritual program of self-development with mutual assistance. And I just feel like at home whenever I'm in a crowd like this, whenever I'm in a group like this. So I have you all to thank for helping me to live truthfully, to live honestly, and to live lovingly. And so I know that, we're all in these uncertain times, and because of the theme of this meeting, I'm sure that we're all doing more prayer and meditation than we probably did before. I know that's true for me. And that's one of the things that I'm grateful for every single day. I feel like we're so lucky that we have these spiritual principles and spiritual practices that we can implement into our lives during times such as this, and the fact that I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that God is in control of all this. God is in charge. And my job is basically to just trust the process, Not only is everything going to be okay right here, right now, everything is okay. One of my favorite quotes is, I think it was Mother Teresa, it says, if you want peace, be peace. And I'm doing my best to accomplish that every day. And it's only through my work with Step 11 that that's possible. I know that when I continue to live here in the present moment, that all my fears are kept at bay, It's amazing when you turn it over how spiritually free you feel. So anyway, I know that one of the spiritual practices that I've learned, or principles that I've learned to live by, is that when you give, you get back. So tonight I've been asked to share just a little bit about myself and my experiences with Step 11. And I know Teresa said, if you want to hear my story, look it up, but I think I need to tell some of my story so that I can talk about the stages that I grew spiritually. Like, for example, I want to talk quickly about my childhood God. Then I'd like to talk about my God when I was using. And then I'd like to talk about the phase where God faded to black. And then slowly but surely, my post-tragedy God, how I grew to have the relationship that's still growing today. One of the things that is so cool about my God is that it's dynamic, he's fluid, she's ever changing, and I'd like to share with you the evolution of my God, so to speak. So anyway, I'll start out by saying that I'm from New Jersey. Somebody said that before earlier, like the great state of New Jersey, woo! And I think one of the reasons why Teresa asked me to speak is because she likes my accent. And so anyway, I grew up in a big Irish Catholic family. always believed in God. You know, we went to mass every Sunday. I'm one of, 7 kids. So the pew was always full. My mom and dad were, we said our prayers together every night. So my childhood God was really a beautiful God. And I felt like God was watching me all the time. So I really tried to be a good girl. And, and I was. So anyway, it was a very ritualistic thing, however. I feel like I said my prayers as my obligations. I loved the ritual, still do. But I feel like my relationship with God was very obligatory, So anyway, let me just fast forward to when I had my first drink. Okay, so I was 14 years old, and I remember I went to the movies with my 18-year-old cousin and a bunch of her friends, and they brought in a couple bottles of rum, and we're dumping it in our Cokes. And I love the symbolism of this. The movie was the original Star Wars. Okay, that says how old I am. I'm 57 years old. Don't try and figure it out. Don't waste your time counting. But anyway, when that movie came out, man, we had never seen anything like that before. It was just like, woo! And actually a couple of weeks ago, we got Disney Plus, and I just rewatched it for the first time since then. And it super freaked me out when I saw all the symbolism in there with like alcoholism. I heard tell about those stories, the dark forces. And so anyway, I was able to really tap into that this time. But back in the day when I was 14, I remember just sitting in my seat, just like, woo! Oh my God, this is so cool. I feel like I was, flying around intergalactically with Han Solo on that Falcon Millennium. If there was a heaven, man, I entered it. I was skyrocketed into that 4th dimension. It was the coolest thing, wow, and I loved it, man. But I'll tell you, I'm of the ilk that I felt loved and nourished and whole before this. So this is my story. What alcohol did for me is larger than life. I mean, it was like plain Jane was gone forever after that first juice. I wanted to, be the one that walked into the room. Everyone was like, yeah, she's finally here. Here comes the fun. And that's the way that I used my whole using career until, of course, the dark end, which, so many of us know way too much about. But anyway, so I didn't drink again and because I got so sick, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm not doing that ever again, until I went away to college. So very quickly, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school. Once again, prayer was a part of our daily routine. I mean, we, first thing in the morning, after we said our pledge, we said prayers. We went to mass every single Friday with my cohort. Actually, it was the whole school. And, and really, I was like, the all-American kid. I went to, I was in the student council. I did all this stuff. Anyway, you get the picture. College is when, I started to really start to drink. All right. I like to say it was like the sheltered Catholic schoolgirl getting let loose in the biggest, baddest city on earth. So I went to Manhattan College in New York City, and let me tell you, it was everything all the time. It was life in the fast lane. And all my dreams and aspirations started getting put in the back seat of that car. And I just, I tore that city up. And it was drinking, it was drugging, it was, I smoked a ton of weed, snorted a ton of cocaine. Remember, this is New York City in the 80s. And I was all over the place. Now let's talk about my using God, Let me tell you, I remember times of being out all night long, and by the way, slowly but surely, because of all those actions, my morals started to get put into the back seat of that car too. But I had this, fear of living a half-lived life. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to see it all. My life was just completely running on ego, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, pride. So God got put in the back seat of that car too. But I have to say, after, oh, this is a good example, just to give you a snapshot. I remember I used to go home once a month to do the readings at Mass. And my family would all be in the church. And I remember I was out with my married boyfriend, drinking, snorting Coke all night long, got up to take a shower in the morning only. I was up all night, got in the car, had my vodka cranberry, right? Because vodka doesn't smell. Probably fired up a joint, and off I went to say the readings at Mass. And I remember, my brothers will never live it down. I got up and I said, "This is a letter from St. Paul to the Filipinos." I was so wasted. And, but I thought, God understands me. God gets this. I'm making my best effort to show up. God knows the language of my heart. I'm going to use that phrase. God knows that I'm really a good person. I'm just going through a stage right now. And I would talk to God and I'd say things like that. Like, this really isn't me. I'm going through a phase, but I know you love me anyway. And, I know that, I'll have to go to confession over this, but, that I'm just letting it rip because, I can. I'm young. This is what young, crazy people do. So, so just to give you a glimpse into what my God was like during my using years. And so anyway, let's fast forward to, let's move more towards, several years down the line when drinking just wasn't fun anymore. I made a ton of geographic changes. It's almost like with each geographic change, I grew further and further from my God, and some of those geographic changes were overseas. Like I lived in France for a little while. I lived in Japan for a little while. And I just quit going to Mass. I quit going to church. And it was just like, I would maybe every once in a while when I got into trouble, Tiambe called it my 911 God, right? Or my Santa Claus God, like, please God, give me this. I'm in big trouble right now. So I would tap into God during those times. And, and I always believed in grace too. I always knew that grace was always there, no matter what I did or no matter what I didn't do. All I had to do was tap into grace, and it would offer me beautiful things like illumination, forgiveness, mercy, compassion. And I did have that even while I was using, but I was cognizant of the fact that I took advantage of grace. Let's put it that way. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this bad stuff now because I know down the line, God will forgive me if I ask, So, so anyway, that was my, to try and encapsulate my using God, that, that's what happened. It was almost like de-evolution. I had this great God that just kind of dwindled down into hardly anything. And during my super dark hours, I just want to briefly tell you what happened to me. I made several geographic changes, but the last one was bad. So I got my first DUI and I moved down to Florida to waitress. And so anyway, I moved down. Now this was a really funny geographic change. Are you ready for this one? To attempt to try and straighten out my life, I moved down to the Florida Keys. Massive fail, massive fail. I mean, as a matter of fact, the Keys is where I really hit the skids. The Keys is where it was that incomprehensible demoralization that so many of us know so well. This is, I would categorize this part of my God phase, fade to black. I didn't believe in a God anymore. If there was a God, why was he doing all this terrible stuff to me? Why were all these terrible things, chance things happening? Why was I always at the wrong place at the wrong time? I mean, I was always pointing the finger of blame. I was the queen of rationalization, but I ended up in the Keys being homeless. I remember walking around in bare feet, drinking Popov vodka out of a bottle, and and smoking crack. Forget about snorting coke anymore. I was smoking crack till I got down to about 85 pounds. And I remember there was a time or two that I would, wander into a church and, just pray like, God, if you're there, give me a sign, and I never got the signs. As a matter of fact, really bad stuff started happening, So anyway, I had a little spiritual thing happen. I had the proverbial look in the mirror and not recognize myself. And I started to try and get my life together. But I ended up meeting a guy who wanted to go down to the Keys on a weekend. We went down, first tiki bar we hit, and we started drinking all the way down to Marathon Key. And I remember wanting to go down and, drink some beers, smoke some joints, whatever, go down and watch the sunset. And we did that down at this place called the old 7 Mile Bridge. And so we went out partying all night. And then I had another great idea. Let's go down and watch the sun come up there. And, so about 2 a.m, we head back down. I remember I saw this sign that said authorized vehicles only. And I'm like, vehicles? Oh, well, let's go. And down we went. And unbeknownst to me, they had just blown that bridge up for that movie, True Lies, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we're cruising down that bridge. And I remember looking at him going, God, where is this bridge leading to? This is weird. And bam, I went barreling right into the concrete barrier that on the other side of that barrier was the water. And man, I just remember, just screaming, oh my God, where did that thing come from? Where did that thing come from? Oh my God, we got to get out of here where this thing is going to blow. There was fire and smoke coming out of the hood. And I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, I was calling on God big time right about then. And I just remember, looking over at Max and thinking that he hit his head and that he was passed out. Several minutes later, I realized that he wasn't breathing and that he was dead. And I remember screaming out to God, like, God, if you're there, please do the merciful thing. Take me too. There is no way I'm going to be able to live with myself, knowing that because of me, this precious life was abbreviated. And this began a new phase of my relationship with God. I got sent down to the hospital. I was in the regular hospital because I broke just about everything. I broke my neck at C1, C2. I was in the regular hospital for 5 months and then a rehab hospital for 5 months. And I remember in that hospital, let me tell you, if a priest walked through that door, I was like, get the hell out. Why would God do this to me? I know that I have a good heart and I'm a good person. Get the hell out of here. I didn't want to have anything to do with a God. It was just like I felt God had completely abandoned me. That little flicker of God that I still had during my times of need, I felt like that was extinguished. I was just like, my family did not want to have anything to do with me. They took the attitude of like, you made your bed, lay in it. So I was pretty much all alone. And I'm telling you, it was black. It was dark. So I'm going to fast forward again. I did start going to my first AA meetings when I was in physical therapy, and it was in St. Pete Beach, Florida. And let me tell you, those people, I saw God in those people. Let's put it that way. Long story short, God started to become alive to me again, looking into those people's eyes, seeing their hands outreached to help me during my darkest hours, offering to take me to physical therapy, offering to tell me things like, there but for the grace of God go I. I'll tell you, I attribute them to really saving my life, because can you imagine the darkness that I was in? So slowly but surely, through people, I started to believe in a God again. What you guys told me, I'll tell you, I want to talk a little bit about step one. I realized that I was powerless and that my life was unmanageable and that I was powerless over alcohol. I mean, you should have seen me back then. I had like that halo on, the halo traction thing. I was on a walker. My ankle was pretty much severed, so they had to, sew my foot back on, so I could barely walk, and both of my ankles were smashed. My pelvis was smashed. I mean, you should have seen me walk into that first meeting. And you all accepted me and loved me like, and with this beautiful maternal love. And you were talking about God. And I saw God in the joy in you. That's not to say I didn't see God in people that were going through pain too, because I was able to see that. So, but what you taught me was that, there was great power in powerlessness. What you taught me was that I needed to embark on this journey where I needed to abandon my pride and drop my ego and transcend into this place of humility, where only that place of humility was the only way that anything of a spiritual nature was going to get in. And I just was amenable to it at that point in my life. It was like your love became such a contagion that it softened my heart and opened the door to let somebody else who was filled with love in. And you all told me about the variety of your gods, and I decided to embark on a new relationship with a new God. And my old God too. I mean, my relationship with God it's way too big to fit into any one religion. But anyway, the best way I can describe my God is love. And I have to say this, that you all also taught me about honesty. I remember I kind of used honesty as my higher power for a while in the beginning. And so I decided to plead guilty because I was guilty. I mean, the attorney was telling me, no, you plead not guilty. That road should have been blocked off, blah, blah, blah. I was like, forget it. I'm guilty as hell. I know I'm going to prison. Let's get the show on the road, And so that's what I did. I accepted 100% responsibility for what I did. I pled guilty and I got sentenced to 5 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation. So now I want to talk about my prison God, because really that was the beginning. Well, no, the beginning was my AA meetings, but this was the next phase of growth, I should say, in establishing a higher power. I just feel like in prison, when all the external distractions of life were removed, I feel like I was really able to simplify and accept God into my heart and rely on God and really hear my true voice, like my genuine voice, without all those distractions, with really just me and God. So I am one of those that's really grateful for the 5 years that I got in prison. The 10 years of probation I could have done without, but yeah. So what I already mentioned, I learned so many things in prison about abandoning my pride, seeking humility. I also learned how when I looked back on my life, every time something went awry, it was because it was me putting myself in God's role, and through a lot of prayer and through a lot of meditation. By the way, I was able to start a meditation group when I was in prison, which was a big deal back then. But really, we just did basic things like sit in the silence, or they actually let me have somebody on the outside send in some meditation tapes. And I'll tell you, it was a lifesaver for me, and so was the 12-step program, because you guys taught me how to be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. And I was prone to doing that, by the way, because that would diminish my usefulness to others. So I also feel like I grew in by learning a lot about service work when I was in prison. I started a literacy program, and I also helped women to prepare for their GED. And I also, in prison, it was the perfect place to do my 4th step. It was the perfect place to do my 5th step, which I did with a Catholic priest in there who was an alcoholic in recovery. And after my 5th step, I'll tell you something. It was like I became less of a freak and more of a member of the human race than I ever was before. Isn't it ironic that the first time I felt that spiritual freedom, I was locked up in prison? You know, I mean, it's wild how that's how it went down for me. I was also able to work on two of my biggest character defects, being judgmental. You know, I always like to share before I went to prison, I remember having a date with some dude who told me over dinner that he spent time in prison, and I was like, whoa, I'm not going out with this guy again. Ain't gonna be a date 2 with you, dude. You know, I mean, I was so judgmental. And so I learned how to embrace everybody and love everybody. Let me tell you, some of the finest women I met in my life, I met in prison. And I was able to work on resentments, especially with my family. Can you imagine I remember the only one that really stuck by me was my dad. I would have thought he would have been the one to bail. But he was the only one that showed up at my hearing. I remember even when I was in prison calling home, and they only let me call home on special occasions because it was collect. And I remember my mom answering the phone and just handed it to my dad, you know, and they didn't send me any money the whole time I was in there. You know, I always joke, I was like, one of my biggest resentments is I didn't write Orange is the New Black. Chapter 1 would have been, I'm nobody's boo because my ass is broke. You know, I mean, but let me tell you, it's not easy being in prison for 5 years with no flow coming in, if you know what I mean. So, but then I just let it go, and I just embraced, again, that life of simplicity. And I really was able to establish this beautiful relationship with my God, you know? So how lucky am I that I had that 5 years in prison? I was able to do that. I was able to go on this mining expedition to find out who I really was. I learned so many qualities. I learned how to be patient and loving and kind and giving. And most importantly, I learned how to forgive myself, and I learned how to begin on the journey of redemption because of my relationship with my higher power. So, getting out of prison, let me tell you something. The miracles just started rolling out one after the other. And I'm going to talk about my God in those days, right? So I need God to show me some signs that I'm doing the right thing, right? So I got him right the minute that I got out of prison. I'll tell you. You know, I think I forgot to tell you how my way that I described myself back when I was younger and it was like, you know what? I was a risk-taking, hell-breaking, you know, or hell-raising, rule-breaking, rock and roll chick. Wow! Living the rock and roll lifestyle. And, you know, I loved my rock and roll. And even when I was in prison, you know, music was like a prayer to me, you know? And so the minute I got into that cab with my hefty bag of all my belongings, I couldn't believe the song that was playing on the radio. I'm as free as a bird now. I mean, what are the chances? I was like, thank you for that sign, God. The cab driver turned it up and we were just singing it together. And, you know, I mean, and then the second miracle happened almost 20 minutes later when he dropped me off at my first AA meeting after prison. And I had no idea, but I walked in and guess who was there? The 3 women that brought the meetings into prison. So thank you, by the way, to anyone who does corrections work. But I had no idea that that's where they went. And they were just like, oh my God, when did you get out? I was like, today, woo, you know? And so, yeah, that was my second sign that I was doing the right thing. And the miracles just kept unfolding. And I'm seeing that I'm running out of time. So I want to just say that my life has just, I'll name some of the biggest miracles. I went from being a housekeeper in a hotel to going to grad school to get my MSW, to working at a detox, to becoming a supervisor of social services, to becoming a professor at Florida State University in the College of Social Work. And I'm telling you, it's all because I maintained my conscious contact with God on a daily basis. And I really feel that none of this has anything to do with me. Well, a little bit does, but mostly it's God. I'm telling you, it is God. And God put just the right people on my path to help prompt me forward. There were angels on every curve of this road for me that encouraged me and built me up. And I'm able to say that thanks to God, I was able to rebuild my relationship with my family. My mom and dad are amazing. They just celebrated 62 years of marriage, and they told me that one of their greatest gifts in life is seeing me be the woman that I am today. You know, I have to tell you, I met the one who I thought I would never meet several years ago at an AA convention, and I got married for the first time 4 years ago to the best man I've ever met in my life. Teresa will tell you. He is a great member of AA. He is just the kindest, most loving, giving person I've ever met, and I aspire to be a person like my husband is. And he's hot. And you know, I have many of you who go to AA conventions. You might know my mother-in-law is the amazing Polly P. I could not ask for a better mother-in-law. She is just love incarnate. I want to also talk about the fact that I recently, this is a miracle. My mom started rallying for me to try and get my license back because I got hit by a car. I've been riding my bike, by the way, for over 20 years everywhere. And so I got hit by a car and I had another really bad bike accident. And she kept writing to Governor Christie in New Jersey, like, this is not justice. You know, she's still, you know, after 20 years doing the right thing, rebuilding her life, and still she can't drive. So on his last night of office, I get a call from Jersey. Hello, Jane, this is Governor Chris Christie. I was like, ah! And he said that he got my, you know, letters from my mom and this big folder of stuff that I've done, and he granted me a pardon. So I just started driving. And here's some other great news to end off with. After 24 years, I am finally going to be able to vote in this election. Yeah! You know, I mean, miracles. You know, in the state of Florida, if you're an ex-offender, you can't vote. So they just overturned that, and I am so excited. But I'm telling you, all of these miracles just keep happening. And it's all because in the morning, I say my prayers and I turn it over, my day over to God, you know, and at night, every night, I really do try to, you know, look at my day, review my day, and see where I went wrong, and quite simply, you know, take corrective actions to make sure that I make amends and that I don't partake in that kind of behavior anymore. So I see I am exactly at 40 minutes. So I did want to just say, I wanted to read one thing from, yeah, what did I, oh, it's, okay, here we go. It's the one that I sent you, Teresa. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into our lives, into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of will. Thank you so much. And I know I'm expecting to talk about step 11 a little more in the Q&A session.